You really never know what you're going to get when you try an indie game. You might find your new favorite game, or you might find the dog poop bag someone buried on the beach 3 weeks ago because they didn't want to deal with it. That's what I love about the indie scene, it's such a mixed bag. Buckle up for this one, it's going to be a long one. Hey there, it's TigerShark here again with Okano. For this week I played a game called Peepo the Game. Apparently an indie dev made a game about a streamer named Peepo who I had never heard about until now. The streamer herself even voiced the main character in-game, which is pretty awesome. Because of this, though, I think there's a lot of references and things I don't get. For example, I have her stream running in the background as I write this, and it seems like Husbando and John Jacob JS are probably stream mods. So I imagine the skeleton named Henry is probably some kind of stream reference or something. No context was given in-game for why Peepo knows the skeleton or why she knows the sign language he uses, so I was confused. Anyway, let's talk about the game. It was really well made for the most part, minimal bugs and glitches. It was a weird mishmash of different game styles, though. You start with a Resident Evil-style fixed camera with tank controls. At a couple points there's a first-person LiDAR sequence. There's even a third-person shooter section. All the main areas seem to be references to different games as well. The first area is called the backwards rooms, or rooms with ugly yellow walls. There's the dark LiDAR area where for some reason Peepo has a robot arm and shoots glitter or something. There's a Resident Evil mansion. If you weren't sure about the Resident Evil influence from the beginning, you literally encountered Jill Valentine in the mansion. And for some reason she has a foreign accent.
Hello? You good?
Hey, who are you?
Nice to meet you. I am Peepo.
Nice to meet you too, I guess. Are you new around here?
Wait, you're that chick from Resident Evil, aren't you? Holy shit! What are you doing here?
There's a dark forest where you're pursued by Slender Dude, and there's 8 crystals to collect. And then the Department of Evil. I'm not sure if that one was a reference to anything. It seemed like a police station. I would guess Silent Hill or something, but again, I haven't played Silent Hill, so I wouldn't know. I loved that the save point was the companion cube from Portal. The puzzles were decent, if a little basic. There were 2 moments that made me laugh out loud. One was after the backroom section, you get to the main hub area. When Peepo walked out, she said, "Is this Skyrim?" If you've ever played Skyrim, you know it's all steampunk cities with electric lights and dumpsters on every corner, of course. You know, the defining features of Skyrim. The second time was in the mansion, when one of the soul-sucking demons showed up for the first time. I was all ready to panic and run, but I'll just let you watch how Peepo handled it.
Oh, you're a slut.
Needless to say, it was a lot less scary after that. The story is seemingly that Peepo has been kidnapped by Algorithm. He sucked her into a video game, and she has to find a way to defeat him and get out of the game. Now, before I go too hard on the critiques, I have to start by saying I actually had a lot of fun, and I think this game is really well made. There's a lot to enjoy about it, and the fact that it doesn't take itself seriously is really important to its success. Peepo herself did an incredible job on the voice acting, and I hope she does more of it in the future. So let's get into it. On the topic of voice acting, it was almost entirely voice acted, except for 2 or 3 random lines that for some reason were just text. Thought that was odd since Peepo did such a great job and voiced everything else she said. Husbando was also a real voice. He did well, though he wasn't quite as good as Peepo was. Again, I don't know anything about Peepo or her stream, but I assume he's her husband based on his name and also my 10-ish minutes watching her stream. I think the other voices were AI though, which I have to dock points for. I know it's really cheap and easy, but I really don't like AI-generated voices or art or any of that. Though Algorithm using an AI voice probably makes sense thematically. The lack of music and general ambience in some places was a little off-putting. That might have been a deliberate choice, but it seemed a little weird for this game. A couple thoughts about the movement system. I think for a game like this, running should be the default movement speed and walk should be the button you press. There's almost never a time I felt like walking was the better choice, so I ended up just holding my shift key down for 98% of my playtime. It was just kind of a moderate annoyance that stuck with me all game long. Even just making the run a toggle instead of a hold would have fixed the problem. Another thing I'm still baffled that developers do is the long pause after a jump. Like, go outside and take a running jump, you will be able to keep that momentum and keep running. There's absolutely no reason the character should have to take 3 whole seconds to reorient herself from a simple jump. This is a weird feature in so many games and it drives me nuts every time. It ends up grinding your momentum to a halt and feels so unnatural. Another issue a lot of games with tank controls have is the turning animation is so slow. This can cause stress when you have to run away from something or just annoyance when you have to navigate a lot of twisting hallways and things. In the case of this game, I think the turning sensitivity was actually slightly too high. I would try to run in a straight line, so I'd gently tap the A or D key to turn, and I'd end up turning almost 45 degrees. Not a big deal, but a little bit annoying. I suppose I'd rather turn too fast than too slow. Speaking of slow, Peepo pushes the boxes for the puzzles agonizingly slowly. Maybe that's supposed to be more realistic, since a box that size is probably really heavy depending on what's in it. But from a gameplay perspective, doing anything really slowly without a good reason is just annoying. If you're trying to build tension, like a monster is slowly hatching from an enormous egg while you wait for a slow door to open, then it can be fine. But in this case, it was just a chill puzzle. Occasionally, the camera would swing around in a really jarring way, particularly in the mansion. Not game-breaking, just a little nausea-inducing. I'll also mention that there is a crouch button. I actually found it by mistake when trying to press a different button. This isn't a critique so much as a question. I never had to crouch a single time, so why even have the option? Another thought here along those same lines. Some of the item boxes scattered about required a simple timing minigame to open. I have the same issue with this as I do with the Alohomora spell in Hogwarts Legacy. Once you've done it once or twice, it's just kind of there as an unnecessary mechanic. It's one thing to have lockpicking in a game like Fallout where lockpicks are a limited resource. But in the case of Peepo and Hogwarts Legacy, it just doesn't really add anything to the game. There's no way to fail in a meaningful way, it just takes up time and becomes tedious. To make this kind of system work, there needs to be consequences to getting it wrong. Either you run out of lockpicks, or the box becomes unopenable, or an alarm triggers bringing enemies down on your position. The worst part about this one is I would do it right and still fail sometimes with no clear reason why. But I could just try again because there's no consequences for failure. The game did sort of feel a bit like a how many memes can I fit in one game competition, particularly in the final battle where there was literally a SpongeBob
2 hours later.
while the boss was powering up. And then it just devolved into insanity as subscribers from Peepo's stream all showed up in mannequin bodies to help. I have to talk about that while I'm on the topic. The final boss was such a cluster. I don't know if this is how it was supposed to be. The combat was already janky as heck, but the arena was flooded by both friendly and unfriendly mannequins battling each other, and Peepo and the boss and Husbando in a giant teddy bear body, and Henry with a freaking sword and armor, and John Jacob JS as a Dark Souls boss fighting the boss for you. The AI was so bad here. At a certain point I just stood and watched as all the NPCs did all the fighting for me. I could probably have left the room and come back to find they'd finished the boss off, since he seemed very uninterested in fighting Peepo for whatever reason, and I literally had to run and stand in front of him to even get hit by his attacks. There are a couple parts that are a little grindy and annoying. In the lead up to the boss, you have to activate a bunch of mannequins to stand on some buttons for you, but you need ghost souls to do it. You get these by taking out the ghosts in the Department of Evil, but I only encountered maybe 2 while I was in there, so I had to go back and grind out about 18 souls. And then, spoiler warning I guess, the fake out ending where Peepo realizes she can still escape using the seal, which is not what is called in your inventory by the way, it's called an amulet. Also, how did she realize that? Nobody was there to tell her, but she reacted as if someone did. But anyway, you need 4, and I only had 2. Turns out I had missed the library in the mansion, which had a key to the 2 arcades I couldn't get into before. And in the arcades are the third-person shooter segments. Peepo's aim is atrocious in these, and they were kinda janky to play. But you have to get a lot of points in order to progress to the actual ending. One of them is a protect the base shooter. It's a good thing this is a mini-game inside a game, since it really isn't good enough to stand on its own. I could see it working with some improvements and extra features, though. The other one is a zombie shooter. You just have to survive waves of zombies on a farm using a potato cannon as your weapon. This one works a little better than the other one, but it's also simpler. Anyway, afterwards you go back to the very start and you can exit the game, and that's basically it. I think the whole game was made as an expression of a person who is frustrated by how we, as content creators, have to be slaves to the algorithms of YouTube or Instagram or whatever platform we work on. I get that. There's so many things I could probably do to grow my channel that I just don't want to do. But sticking to my guns in this case might mean I never get past the 31 subscriber count or whatever it is when this video goes live. We have to toe the line between being true to ourselves and just pushing whatever content we know will succeed. I may never make a career out of this since I don't like to bother people to subscribe in every video and I don't make clickbait thumbnails. Among a myriad of other things I could probably do. I wish I could just beat up algorithm like Husbando does before the proper fight begins. But the best I can do is just keep going. I'm making content that I love and I'm actually proud of. If I never go viral or never get any more subscribers, then it is what it is, and I did what I wanted. And if I do go viral and cross 1 million, then it'll feel even better since I refuse to make a thumbnail with a girl with a big butt or my overly exaggerated face reacting to something or whatever is trendy. I don't know, I'm just rambling now. Anyway, the link for the game will be in the description if you want to try it, and I'll link Peepo's channel as well if you want to check out her stream. That's all for this one, and as always, I hope you have a spectacular day.
Understand.
Sure. Can we go now?
I'm starting to get tired of this guy.
There. What do you think you're doing?